won't let you. I won't let you fade away. I won't let.
What's up, guys? Hope everyone is doing well. In this video, I'm going to be going over some quick updates for just Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and get it started here. First off, on this 4-hour chart that I went over in the last video, I just wanted to point out how we have, as we can clearly see, Bitcoin is broken down right here. Had this support in this area right here. Price then came up, was rejected at the 200 estimated moving average, the white line, came down, found a local support, a local low, came back up to around 63.6, was rejected once more, came down, set our local low, which right now is sitting around 59.7. Then after that, we came back up to, as we can see here, around 63.5, 63.6. So far, we're seeing rejection here as well. If we look here at the RSI, you can see that it has been trending upwards as this entire downside move has played out that I had just highlighted. We see the stock RSI doing the same thing as well, which is breaking above the median. If we look here at the MACD, we can see it has recently flipped bullish. Now I find this rather interesting. This being the 4-hour chart. Quickly, if I go here to the 12-hour, this 12-hour triangle pattern that I've shown recently had a fake out towards the downside. Right now, well, I mean, even if you want to continue to think that this pattern should still be applied to the chart, it's really just a matter of however you want to see things. But all in all, whether or not it's here or it is not, we can see that we did see this break towards the upside. So far, we're seeing a break towards the downside, which, as I said, we could see something. See this, well, if I can click the highlighter, see this fake out towards the upside, fake out, which so far has been more drastic towards the downside, and then we end up ultimately just breaking back up and validating this pattern. Going back here to the 4-hour, I like this so far. I've liked this symmetrical triangle better than the 12-hour, the daily one that I've shown, as we can more clearly see the supports and the resistances. Well, the resistance right here, 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 and then most recently here. But most importantly, these 4 right here, creating the key structure of this triangle pattern. Now, again, like I said, this RSI is moving upwards, stock RSI is moving upwards. The MACD has crossed bullish, and if we look here at the RVI, we could potentially be seeing some movement back up here towards the upper region, which is going to correspond with the bullish movement. So, for example, let's say we're breaking up here. We're coming along this median. Maybe we'll sit here for a little bit. Maybe not. But anyway, something will happen. Maybe we'll continue to go high and then oscillate within this upper range. Again, like I said, corresponding with bullish movement. And essentially we would see, like I said, along with some potential bullish divergence playing out here on the RSI and the stock RSI. We'll see as we're going down, maybe, or as the price of Bitcoin is going down right now, maybe we'll just go down a little bit more. Once we just slowly build back up, break up into the pattern once more, and then continue to move towards the upside, validating this pattern of the 4-hour with just a fake out towards the downside. What's going to be key is breaking back above, first and foremost, the 50 EMA, the turquoise moving average, along with its band. But then after that, the 200 EMA, as you can see right here, it was along with the support of the pattern itself, support found at the 200 EMA. This local low right here around 65.5, 200 EMA support was found, and you can clearly see, as I pointed out right here in this range, with the wick high at around 66.8, the price being rejected at the 200 EMA. So getting above that, which currently sits, well, the 50 EMA sits at around 64.5, and the 200 EMA sits pretty much right at 66,000. And then again, as I've been saying a lot recently, approximately 70,000 is clearly an important value, psychologically whole, amongst other things as well, with the biggest vector zone right here being in that range on the 4-hour chart. So again, like I said, we see this 12-hour here. We are nearing the 200 EMA, which sits at approximately 58.6, 58.7. As I mentioned in a recent community tab post, I am eyeing 57,000 for a very specific reason. pertaining to a 3-day chart, which I will get to here shortly. But if we look down here at the RVI, again, we could potentially be seeing some moving back up here towards the upside. The Bollinger Bands are fairly compressed, not as compressed as they've been within the recent time of this chart, but fairly compressed. And like I said, could be building back up here, moving towards the upside, similar to the 4-hour, and especially at that 4-hour portrayal that I mentioned ends up playing out, especially towards the upside, obviously. If we look here at the stock RSI, we see this flip right here. So again, maybe we could continue just to move up here towards the upside. The RSI right here has been fairly flattened out from approximately this local low right here down 62.5 to our current local lows of just approximately 61.5. There clearly has been a downwards orientation, so there's not really much there in terms of some sort of exaggerated bullish divergence. But the main thing I'm trying to really point out here is that we're seeing, relatively RSI's lows have been relatively flat right there. And then we look at the price, and you can clearly see it's been more drastically towards the downside, especially recently, right here in this range with the most recent local downside and those local lows. Whereas you can see right here, it's roughly just been kind of oscillating within this range right here in this area. So there again could be further potential there. We could, as I've said, 57,000, 58,000 I have been eyeing as a range for potential pullback for over a month at this point, and then even lower down to approximately 50 to 53,000 at the lowest it could possibly go, in my personal opinion, in my bias. If we look here at the daily, we can see that the price is nearing. It's already wicked a little bit below, although the bodies of the candles have not yet touched the support of this pattern I've been going over since, well, I suppose somewhere around this area, around December of last year, when it really would have been the first time you would have been able to notice this ascending, broadening channel. We had this fake out, as I've talked about, broke back above, found resistance, moved up to the recent local high, which is a local all-time high, assuming Bitcoin is going to continue to go higher here, of 73,700. Right now, the support, let's say we come down, Bitcoin comes down, and it finds support right here in some fashion and continues to go higher into a bull market, into the bull market. This is sitting roughly approximately 61.2 thousand. So there's definitely, as I mentioned, potential to find support here or continue to go lower, as I've said. And then, as I said not too long ago, around 50 to 54,000 bottom of the barrel. That is more so within my own personal bias. Although, as I've been mentioning and talking about a lot recently with the 20 to 40% rule pertaining to prior bull markets for Bitcoin, going back and looking at all the bull markets for Bitcoin, once it's clear that the bull market has begun, Bitcoin has never retraced more than 40%, and a nice range which encompasses the healthy corrections in a bull market is 20 to 40%. And again, just to reiterate, even though I've said it very much recently, around $43,000 approximately is as low as I think Bitcoin could possibly go, given that I think that Bitcoin is clearly in a bull market, and I don't think that this new all-time high around 73.5 thousand is going to be where things end. We also see the 200 EMA right here as well, lining up with approximately 50,000. So again, further reason to think that we could dip down to 50 to 54, 53,000, going below around 57, 58,000. Which brings me into this 3-day chart, which is the main point and emphasis of this video. The first thing that I want to talk about is this white trend range right here. Zoom in a bit, we can see that it begins at the candle close high, the 3-day range encompassing January 7th of 2021 at approximately 38.8, just approximately 39,000. And then you can see, so like I said, bull market was ensuing back in 2021, found rejection. Bitcoin eventually broke above it, had this staggering dying off of volume up here towards around 64,000 as some divergences, bearish divergences being printed. We had this big dump right here. Price came down, came back up, found resistance. Price continued to topple some more. Then the price came up to this area right here, and we can see a minor, just a kind of stalling out of price, and then eventually, as we can see, the price broke up. Local top was found around 52.5, came back down, found support in this range, came up right here, and eventually we also again had further bearish divergence. Ultimately, the price ended up toppling back down. We had some sort of a minor stall right here with respect to the range, but ultimately, what's most important is price came down to this local low at around 35.8. Again, we see rejection, 43.7, further rejection around 43.5, and then the final rejection right here at approximately 46.3, 46.5, looking up to around 48,000, approximately 47,000. This area right here would really be confirmation, acting as confirmation. Bitcoin was definitely entering and had already been in the short beginning moments of a bear market. We can look at it this way, in the sense is there's this rough sideways range with their support right here, and then with the resistance up here, and Bitcoin was just oscillating within this range right here, came down, and it found the final resistance at a clearly important ascending range, which mostly acted as resistance, although there were a few instances of support. And then eventually we came back down. Bitcoin comes back down into a more full-on total bear market. From this area down was around 67% totally. The bull market was around 77, approximately 77%. So having that clearly established with that right trend range ascending over time. Zooming into, we see this turquoise parabolic curve. We can see back down here, approximately 15.4 thousand with the lowest low, with the center of that really lining up around 16.5, 16.6, 16.7 thousand. So Bitcoin comes down. We have this double bottom right here. When trading upwards, finds the first local top and rejection at 30,000. Second local top rejection at approximately 30 to 31,000. Come back down. We meet the parabolic curve again. Price jumps back up here towards the upside. Again, parabolic curve. And then we're encroaching upon the parabolic curve once more. We're right on top of the upper line, as you can see as I go in and out of the drawings. But really the most important thing here to me was, and well, actually this was initially what led me to creating this chart, was I zoom in here, we look at these black paths or patterns. They represent a six-stage movement, beginning with we can really see this initial up or impulse. We had a local top right here, so you can look at this as a 0 to 1, and we had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It ends, and then again I have another impulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And the reason why, so if we look at this wick low rate, or this pullback, it was around 21%. And from this area down here again, 21% would meet around 57,000 to 58,000. Which is why I have this specific drawdown. And then even if we zoom in here further, we can see, looking at the local tops of this six-stage impulse, we can see that we had the initial top right here. We had a second top, and I'm speaking in terms of where the candle closed. So again, like I said, first top, second top. First one was higher, second one was lower. If you look here again, you see the first top, second top is lower. Going back to this first area here, the third top is higher, and we see the same thing right here as well for this second iteration, or at least potential iteration of the six-stage move that I'm trying to represent. Clearly you can see this third peak right here wasn't as drastically above these two back here, as you can really see with this yellow vector candle. And then lastly, in terms of pointing out key importances of this pattern is the fact that as we were entering, Bitcoin set this third peak and then came down for the final downside, which ended from five to six. In the stages of this move, we see at this peak right here, or just around sometime during this last drawdown, we see the approval, some sort of news-based related event happens. This was January 10th or 11th, the approval of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, and then fast forward to where we are currently. Again, like I said, we've seen these three peaks. We're coming down into what is possibly the final correction or pullback within this parabolic curve, within this bull market for Bitcoin, and we're also encroaching within the next 2 days, approximately 48 hours or so. Bitcoin will see its fourth halving. So again, like I said, we're seeing this parabolic curve. We're seeing this 6-stage movement. We're seeing news-based related events towards the end of them after the first peaks. And on top of that, as I mentioned, with this white ascending resistance/support range, we're coming into contact with that as well. And like I said, I mentioned back here, it mostly acted as resistance. There was really only one key area, and two if you wanted to count this very minor stall out right here. But really one key area should be right here around 42.5 back in September 2021, where we saw Bitcoin find support with respect to this trend range, this ascending trend range. So given that this trend range is mostly acted as resistance, I think it's a perfect reason to find, or at least a very valid reason to find, the fact that Bitcoin's going to come down to this, maybe deviate just a little bit lower, whether it's, a small portion of the body of the candle or some wicks below. And wicks could even go, it could even wick down to around, 52, 53,000, as I mentioned. Roughly, it would still, ultimately, this trend range would still roughly be respected, especially if it's just some wicks and minor closes of the candle below this. Ultimately finding a bounce from here, assuming this plays out with the way that I have this modeled out, the next move, assuming that we see some self-similarity here in each of these impulses with these 6-stage corrections. This first one back here was from 0 to 1, 79.41%, so approximately 80%. Second one was 91.45%. So if we just take the average of these two, we're going to see about roughly 86%. So if we take it roughly, obviously it depends upon where we're going to find the low, but if I take the low somewhere around 57,000, approximately 57,000 right here, with this measurement tool, 86% is going to put it at around approximately 106,000, which follows through with the broad range that I mentioned in the last video of whenever Bitcoin finds its local low, above its lowest, approximately 43,000, at least I personally think, then I think Bitcoin will shoot up to a broad range of around 90 to 130,000 at highest. Now I'd say probably more so around like approximately 90 to 110,000 is more realistic there. But just to push the upper limits under 30,000, I think is fairly reasonable, at least. So far, this further affirms that projection and that idea pertaining to price. As I said, assuming Bitcoin finds support within this parabolic curve, also with respect to this ascending range, the 6-wave move continues to carry out here towards the downside, and as we are entering into this pullback or this correction of the 6th stage, we would need to find some best case scenarios from support roughly right here. You should clearly see within this bubble right here. Before, I would say, just to kind of give some sort of, throw some sort of, I suppose, in quotes, prediction, not that I'm necessarily trying to predict it, but if I had to guess, according to this chart and the other charts and just what I think in my mind, somewhere at around maybe halfway into May, yeah, maybe first week, end of second week of May, and then the Bitcoin will find this local low with respect to this confluence right here, where we see, like, again, parabolic curve, ascending white trend range, and the 6-stage correction leading into the 4th halving for Bitcoin. So I forgot to go over one of the main, if not the most important part of this 3-day chart that pertains to prior bull markets of Bitcoin's history, which really acts as the confirming factor that this 6-stage move seems to be pretty clearly important and Bitcoin's progression of price during bull markets. So if we go back to, let's zoom out first. If we go back to what we're seeing here is phase 2 of cycle 2 for Bitcoin, from approximately 1,200 to approximately 20,000, 2013, 2017. We zoom in here, this area right here, we can see this was, as Bitcoin is getting back close to the all-time high previously around 1,200, and we see this move up to the upsides here. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we see another move up here towards the upside that ends, and then see this drop off in price, this correction right here. We see an impulse, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it moves again towards the upside to even further back. This being the last one, I'm going to point out at least. 2013, January 2013 to November 2013. This is the super cycle, phase 1 of cycle 2. And we can see the initial impulse. See, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bottoms sit in, and then the price continues to move up there towards the upside. But anyways, I was just adding that in because I completely forgot that I even had that on this chart. Also, if we look here at the RVI, we can see that the price has recently gone below the median at 50 right here for the RVI. Last time that happened was actually back during the last 6-stage correction. Once that happened, there was only about 3 candles after that until it bottomed. So I mean, taking that out, that would find a bottom around last week of April, around the 27th of April, if it plays out somewhat similar to that. Just in general, the fact that we're crossing this median and the price is still as high as it is, RVI is lower than it was when Bitcoin was sitting at 26.8 back around halfway into October of last year. Yet, so we'll just run it up to 30,000. 30,000, we're roughly a little bit over double in price, yet the RVI has basically reset itself back to the same level. And especially if we dump a little bit more, I would not be surprised at all if it continues to come down towards the upper portion of this pink range, flatlining out, or maybe even going a little bit lower than the RVI when it was at approximately 40,000, just further, double downing on some sort of bullish divergence, if you will, even apply it to this indicator in the first place. But outside of that, last thing I wanted to talk about here was this RSI. Again, we can clearly kind of see the same picture where we see RSI has basically reset itself back to when it was at approximately 40,000. Again, it's lower than when price was at 26.7, approximately 27,000. So really it's the same picture being painted here, but I just wanted to point out those two to further affirm some sort of momentum or velocity and volatility behind Bitcoin finding support within this confluence range right here and moving further and further towards the upside. Again, no change in my price target. Approximately 220 to 230,000 is what I think the most reasonable high is, and I think best worst case scenario approximately 180,000. But that was all that I wanted to go over in this video. So as always, hopefully you enjoyed. Again, none of this is meant to be financial advice, but all that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful day.